We live in a world where masks are easier to wear than ever before. Words are polished, appearances are carefully curated, and people have mastered the art of being who they think they ought to be. But beneath the surface, behind the carefully chosen words and charming smiles, lies something much more important: their true character. And while deceit may endure for a time, truth has a way of revealing itself. If you want to see a person for who they truly are, look beyond what they say and observe what they do. There is an illusion that the true measure of a person lies in how they behave toward those they respect, those they admire, those from whom they seek favor. Many people wear kindness like a garment, showcasing it only when they believe it will serve them. They speak in honeyed words to those in power. They extend generosity to those whose approval they crave. And they clothe themselves in goodness when they believe the world is watching. But if you want to truly understand who someone is, do not look at how they treat those who can elevate them. Look at how they treat those who can do nothing for them. There is no nobility in kindness given with expectation. There is no virtue in a gift given only when there is a chance of return. That is not generosity, that is transaction. There are those who will act as though they are benevolent, as though they are compassionate, but only when their kindness is likely to be seen, rewarded, or praised. But true character is not found in grand gestures for an audience. It is found in the quiet, unseen moments, in the way a person treats those from whom they have nothing to gain. Look at how someone treats the ones the world often ignores: the waiter serving their meal, the janitor cleaning the floors, the stranger passing by with no influence to offer. These interactions speak more of a person's heart than any act of charity done in the spotlight. Do they treat the so-called insignificant with the same dignity they extend to the powerful? Do they acknowledge those who exist outside their own circle of importance, or do they dismiss them as invisible? A person who is kind only to those they respect is not kind at all. A person who is respectful only when there is a consequence for disrespect does not truly value others. Watch the way they speak to the ones they do not need. Listen to the tone of their voice when addressing someone they believe has no bearing on their life. Do they extend warmth and courtesy, or do they let indifference and arrogance seep into their words? The world is filled with those who rise in status and forget where they came from. They accumulate power and wealth, and somewhere along the way they convince themselves that their worth is greater than those who serve them. They believe that money, status, or reputation entitles them to treat others as lesser beings. But true greatness is never found in the arrogance of self-importance. It is found in humility. It is found in those who, no matter how high they climb, never lose sight of the value of every soul. A person who understands this does not see people in terms of their usefulness. They do not measure worth by what another can offer them. They see humanity in its purest form, not in ranks, not in hierarchies, but in the simple truth that every life carries value. And because of this, they treat the stranger with the same respect they would give a friend. They treat the powerless with the same kindness they would offer the powerful. But make no mistake, this is not just about how we judge others. It is about who we choose to become. If you seek to be someone of true character, someone who leaves an impact that is real and lasting, then ask yourself, how do you treat those who can do nothing for you? Do you offer kindness without expecting it in return? Do you extend grace even when it goes unnoticed? Do you choose to see the unseen, to hear the unheard, to give dignity where the world so often withholds it? Because in the end, the worth of a person is not determined by the riches they accumulate, the power they wield, or the admiration they command. It is determined by the way they touch the lives of those who have no power to repay them. The legacy of a truly great person is not written in the opinions of the powerful, but in the quiet gratitude of those they lifted when no one else would. And so the next time you meet someone new, do not be deceived by charm, by reputation, by the way they carry themselves before those they seek to impress. Watch instead how they treat the ones they do not need. And more importantly, let it be a reminder of who you must strive to be, not just someone who is kind when it is easy, but someone whose kindness is a reflection of true and unwavering character. There is a world that exists beyond the gaze of others, a place where masks are shed, where the carefully rehearsed words fade, and where the weight of expectation no longer presses upon the shoulders. It is in this world, where no applause is waiting, where no judgment looms, that the truth of a person is revealed. Who we are when no one is watching is the closest thing to our unfiltered self. It is the rawest expression of character, stripped of performance, unshaped by the desire for validation. Many people live their lives as though they are on a stage, carefully curating their actions to align with what will win them approval. They wear honesty when honesty is convenient. They practice kindness when kindness is expected. They display integrity when integrity is profitable. But the test of true character is not in how a person behaves under scrutiny. It is in how they act when there is no one to impress, no consequences to fear, no reward to be gained. When no eyes are upon them, does a person still choose honesty, or does deception suddenly seem justifiable? Do they still choose kindness when no praise will come from it? Do they still hold fast to their values when there is no one to remind them why they should? It is easy to be noble in the light, to be generous when generosity is admired, to be virtuous when virtue is expected. But when the light fades, when the world is not watching, when the only witness is the silence of one's own conscience, this is where a person's true nature steps forward. Some people believe that their private choices do not matter, that what is done in the dark holds no weight if it never comes to light. But nothing remains hidden forever. What is cultivated in secret inevitably shapes the person who emerges in the open. A person who builds habits of deceit, even in the smallest of things, will find that deceit seeping into every part of their being. A person who nurtures selfishness when no one is looking will soon find that selfishness reflected in their relationships, their ambitions, their every interaction. And yet, the opposite is also true. Someone who chooses integrity when no reward is promised, who chooses discipline when no punishment is threatened, who chooses kindness when no gratitude is guaranteed. This is a person whose character is not borrowed from circumstance, but built from within. This is a person who does what is right, not because they must, but because they cannot be anything else. Greatness is not formed in grand moments, nor is it decided in the fleeting judgments of others. It is built in the quiet, in the unnoticed choices, in the private battles fought and won when no one will ever know. It is in the decision to be honest when lying would be easy. It is in the effort put forth when no credit will be given. It is in the silent refusals to betray one's own principles, even when temptation whispers that no one will ever find out. It is easy to believe that what we do in secret carries no meaning, that the only things that define us are the ones that others can see. But a house does not stand because of the paint on its walls or the beauty of its exterior. It stands because of its foundation, buried deep beneath the surface, unseen and uncelebrated. And in the same way, a person's strength, their worth, their legacy, is not built on the words they say or the image they project. It is built in the hidden choices, in the unseen moments, in the integrity that exists, whether the world acknowledges it or not. If you wish to know the truth of someone, do not simply watch them when they know they are being watched. Observe what they do when they believe no one will ever find out, because what a person does in the quiet, in the solitude, in the absence of consequence or reward, that is who they truly are. And more importantly, ask yourself the same question, because in the end, the measure of a person is not what they pretend to be, but who they are when no one else is looking. Power does not change people, it reveals them. It is one of the greatest tests of character, stripping away the illusions of humility, the pretense of virtue, the carefully crafted masks of restraint. Power, whether great or small, is a magnifying glass placed over the soul, exposing what has always been there. Give a person authority even over the smallest thing, a team, a household, a single decision that affects another, and you will see them as they truly are. Some wear kindness like a cloak, presenting themselves as gentle and fair, but only because they have never held the ability to control others. Once given power, they shift. Their tone sharpens, their patience thins. They begin to believe that their voice alone should be obeyed, that their will should never be questioned. Power does not corrupt them, it simply removes the constraints that once forced them to appear kind. But others, when handed the same power, become something entirely different. They do not use it to elevate themselves, but to lift those around them. They do not see authority as a means to dominate, but as a responsibility to serve. Instead of taking advantage of their position, they use it to protect, to guide, to build, rather than break. These people are rare, but they are the ones who leave behind something greater than themselves. A person's true nature is not seen when they are struggling, when they are small, when they have nothing. It is seen when they have everything. The humble man who remains humble when given power is truly humble. The fair leader who remains just even when he could bend the rules is truly just. The kind soul who remains kind even when cruel. The way someone wields power, whether in the grand halls of leadership or in the small, unnoticed moments of daily life, reveals more about them than any words ever could. Even the smallest positions of power tell us something. Watch how someone treats a waiter, a subordinate, a student, a stranger who needs help. Observe what they do when they have the ability to make a decision that affects another person. Do they use their position to serve, or do they use it to remind others that they are in charge? Do they lead with grace, or do they command with arrogance? Do they listen, or do they expect blind obedience? The greatest leaders in history were not those who demanded loyalty through fear, but those who inspired it through wisdom and strength of character. Power without integrity is a weapon, and it will wound not only those under it, but eventually the one who wields it. We see it in history, in politics, in business, in families, in friendships. Wherever power exists, it either becomes a tool for good or a force of destruction, and what determines its path is not the power itself, but the hands that hold it. The dangerous thing about power is that it whispers lies. It tells those who hold it that they deserve more than others, that they are above the rules, that their word should never be questioned. And for those who are weak in character, these lies become truths. They begin to believe that their authority makes them better, that their position grants them the right to demand, to control, to diminish those beneath them. But real strength is not found in domination. Real strength is in restraint. It is in choosing not to abuse power, even when one has the ability to do so. It is in recognizing that true authority does not come from forcing others into submission, but from earning their respect through fairness, wisdom, and integrity. The world is full of people who seek power, but few who truly deserve it. And the difference between the two is simple. Those who seek power for themselves will eventually be consumed by it. Those who seek power to serve others will leave behind something greater than themselves. If you wish to see someone's true character, do not look at them when they are weak. Look at them when they are strong. Because how a person handles power, no matter how small, will tell you everything you need to know. And if you ever find yourself in a position of authority, remember that power is not a right, it is a responsibility. What you do with it will define you far more than any words, any achievements, or any reputation ever could. Adversity is a mirror reflecting back to us who we truly are. It is easy to be kind when life is kind to us. It is easy to be patient when everything goes according to plan. It is easy to be noble when there is no cost to it. But hardship strips away the illusions. It presses upon the soul, revealing not the person we pretend to be, but the person we truly are. How someone reacts in times of hardship tells you more about their character than any words, any titles, any carefully crafted image ever could. There are those who, when faced with struggle, crumble beneath its weight. They lash out, they blame, they become bitter, allowing misfortune to define them. Their hardship becomes an excuse, a reason to justify cruelty, to abandon their principles, to see the world through a lens of resentment. They believe that suffering grants them permission to inflict suffering in return, that hardship entitles them to bitterness. But this is not strength. This is surrender. It is handing over one's own soul to adversity and allowing it to shape them into something small, something hardened, something unrecognizable. Then there are those who face hardship differently. They do not deny the pain, nor do they pretend to be unaffected. They feel the weight of their burdens, but they do not allow those burdens to break them. Instead of allowing suffering to make them bitter, they let it make them wiser. Instead of using pain as an excuse to destroy, they use it as a reason to rebuild. They do not see hardship as an unfair curse, but as a teacher, harsh, unforgiving, but invaluable. The difference between these two kinds of people is not in what they endure, but in how they choose to endure it. Pain comes for us all. Loss, failure, disappointment, these are unavoidable. No one walks through life untouched by hardship. The question is not whether we will suffer, but what we will become because of it. Will we let it make us cruel, or will we let it carve out of us something stronger, something deeper, something unshakable? Some of the greatest souls in history were not shaped by ease and comfort, but by adversity. They did not rise because life was kind to them, but because they refused to let hardship define them. They stood firm when everything around them crumbled. They held on to integrity when it would have been easier to abandon it. They endured, not because they were immune to pain, but because they chose to transform it into something meaningful. If you want to know who someone truly is, watch them when life is unfair to them. Do they turn cold, or do they remain kind? Do they seek revenge, or do they seek wisdom? Do they break under the weight of suffering, or do they rise despite it? It is not in times of ease that we see the depth of a person's soul, but in the storms that threaten to drown them. And the ones who remain steady, who do not let hardship turn them into something small and bitter, these are the ones whose character is not borrowed from circumstance, but built from within. To be this kind of person is not easy. It is far simpler to let pain justify anger, to let struggle excuse selfishness, to believe that hardship gives us the right to become less than we once were. But there is another path, a harder path, one that requires strength beyond what the world can see. It is the choice to endure without hatred, to suffer without losing compassion, to fail without losing dignity. It is the path of those who understand that hardship does not have to be a curse. It can be the fire that forges something greater. If you ever wonder who you truly are, look not at how you behave when life is kind, but at how you respond when it is not. And if you ever wonder who someone else truly is, do not look at them when they are winning, but when they are losing. Because hardship does not create character, it reveals it, and what is revealed in those moments is the only truth that matters. It's the truth we are taught within. The truth is a force that cannot be contained. It exists beyond our desires, beyond our fears, beyond the illusions we build to protect ourselves. Some fear it, some embrace it, and some try to bend it to their will. But the measure of a person is not found in whether they encounter the truth. We all do at some point. The real question is, what do they do with it? There are those who, when faced with the truth, reject it outright. They cover their ears, close their eyes, and build walls around themselves, hoping that if they ignore it long enough, it will disappear. The truth unsettles them because it threatens the comfortable stories they have told themselves. It asks them to change, to confront their flaws, to admit their mistakes. And so, rather than face it, they deny it, even when it is standing right in front of them. Others do not reject the truth outright, but they twist it, bending it to fit their own narratives. They use it as a tool to manipulate, to control, to justify actions that would otherwise be indefensible. They speak of truth when it serves them, but discard it when it becomes inconvenient. To them, truth is not something to be honored, and so they wield it like a weapon, carefully selecting which parts to acknowledge and which parts to ignore, shaping it into whatever best serves their desires. But then there are those who do something different. They do not turn away from the truth, even when it is painful. They do not try to twist it into something more comfortable. Instead, they face it with open hands, open hearts, open minds. They allow it to shape them, to challenge them, to change them. They understand that truth is not always kind, to be one of these people, to be someone who honors truth, who seeks it even when it is difficult, is not easy. It requires humility, the willingness to admit when we are wrong. It requires courage, the strength to stand by what is right, even when it costs us something. It requires integrity, the refusal to trade honesty for comfort. When you want to know who someone truly is, watch how they handle the truth. Do they run from it? Do they twist it? Or do they embrace it, even when it challenges them? The answer to that question will tell you everything. Because a person who cannot face the truth will never be able to grow. A person who manipulates the truth will never be able to be trusted. But a person who stands by the truth, no matter what, it is they who will leave behind something real, something lasting, something worth remembering. And so, if ever you are unsure of who you are, if ever you find yourself standing at the crossroads of truth and comfort, choose truth, even when it is hard, even when it hurts, even when it shakes the foundation of everything you thought you knew, because in the end truth will remain long after the illusions have faded. And what you choose to do with it will define you more than anything else ever could.